You're listening to Destiny for Nomads, the ultimate podcast for digital nomads looking to take their lifestyle to the next level. I'm Laurent Autin, your host and fellow remote worker. Originally from France, I've lived abroad for over 2 decades, spending 20 years in Southeast Asia before settling in Helsinki, Finland in July 2019. In this exciting first season, we'll be sharing invaluable insights and tips on how to prepare for becoming a digital nomad. Whether you're just starting or a seasoned traveler, our guests will provide you with everything you need to know to optimize your nomadic life, no matter where you are. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and relax. Welcome to Destiny for Nomads. Destiny for Nomads is brought to you by Medical for Nomads. As a digital nomad, remote worker, or expat, you never know what health issues may arise while on the go. Travel health insurance can cover minor ailments like a scooter crash in Thailand. But what if you need primary medical treatment like kidney stone removal in Dubai or heart surgery in the UK? That's where Medical for Nomads comes in. Unlike travel health insurance, Medical for Nomads offers real medical insurance designed specifically for global nomads, expats, and remote workers. And it covers all the big things. With just a 2-minute application process, you can get covered within 24 hours. Don't leave your health to chance. Visit medicalfornomads.com to protect yourself with comprehensive medical insurance. And as a special bonus for listeners of Destiny for Nomads, check out the show notes for a 10% discount on your next Medical for Nomads policy. Take care of yourself and your health with Medical for Nomads. You deserve it. Thank you for tuning in. Joining me from Germany is founder and CEO at the Podcast Babes and host of Digital Nomad Stories, Anne Claessen. Anne started as a backpacker and has now been a digital nomad for 5 years. I know that in 2 weeks' time, she's going to go to Spain. Although she finds that staying in touch with friends and family can be challenging for her at times, she loves to experience new cultures and particularly skip winter. I mean, I live in Finland. I don't understand that. You're going to have to tell me more about it. But the most important for her is to remember that the digital nomad lifestyle can look different for everyone, and she recommends you don't get too caught up on how other people live theirs. Hey, Han, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Laurent.
No problem. So, like I said, you're gonna leave. You're gonna leave in 2 weeks' time to Spain. You told me that your flight ticket is booked before we started recording. Um, why did you decide to become a digital nomad?
Yeah, good question. So, my story is in 2018, I finished my studies. Before that, I was working really hard at university. I had a job next to it. So, I was always just busy, 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 working towards my big goal of becoming a lawyer. So, at the
Mm.
end of all of this, I was pretty burnt out. And I, at some point, asked myself, do I really want to become a lawyer? Like, do I actually see myself do this and go into the office every day and do this kind of work? I did 2 different internships at different law firms, and I actually, to be honest, hated them. So I asked myself that question, and the conclusion was no, I actually don't want to do that. So I was in this place of burnout, being quite lost on what I wanted to do because being a lawyer had been my goal for, I would say, like 10 years, leading up to university, choosing what to do, what to study, and then going through all of that, putting so many hours and so much energy into it, and then deciding that I didn't want to do it. I was just completely lost. In the process of kind of figuring out that I didn't want to be a lawyer and that I wanted to do something else, I listened to a lot of different podcasts. I've always been a big fan of traveling. It was always one of my favorite hobbies. So I listened to a lot of travel podcasts and I learned about digital nomad lifestyle, and that people were
Mm,
doing this thing where they just take their laptop, travel around, and work while they do that. So I learned about the term and the lifestyle and that it exists. And because I was at this point where I didn't really have anything to keep me in the Netherlands, I decided, you know what? I'm just going to go off and travel. And I told everyone that I think I'm going to be gone a year, but I did sell all my stuff. So I, broke my lease. I didn't have an apartment anymore, sold all my furniture. I had like a few moving boxes in my dad's basement. And then I told everyone, I might be back in a year, but we'll see. And I also
mm.
had in the back of my mind, I will just find a way to make money online. So that's how I became a digital nomad, and kind of why was figuring out what I wanted to do and also just have fun and travel in the process because I've always loved traveling so much. So yeah, that's kind of what happened, and now it's 5 years later and still going strong.
I hope you've seen your parents in the meantime, though.
I have. Well, I have been before I saw them after leaving it was 2 years. So I
Yeah.
left in September 2018 and I didn't see them until August of 2020. So almost a full 2 years. So that was very long. I will not do that again. Like that was too long, I think, to not see family.
So you started as a backpacker, but now you consider yourself more of a digital nomad. What's the difference between both, and how did you transition from one to the other?
So how I see it, why I call myself a backpacker back then versus digital nomad now is when I started traveling, the focus was really about the traveling, like I had in the back of my mind, maybe I should find a way to make money online and do this digital nomad thing, but it was not a priority yet. So I just traveled quite fast around Southeast Asia and Australia. So I don't call myself a digital nomad because I was not actually working online. Um,
Mm.
the laptop stayed in the backpack. So it was just, staying in hostels, meeting a lot of people, seeing really cool places, and then being somewhere for 2, 3 days and then moving on to the next place and exploring there and then moving on, moving on. So I did not really work during that first year. And then after that, I decided, well, actually, I was traveling for about 5 months and it didn't feel as special anymore, which is, I know, is a super privileged thing. And I actually hate saying this, but it was kind of normal to see all these really cool
Yeah, been there,
places.
done that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just not really as exciting anymore,
Mm,
as horrible as it is. And I decided to go to Australia to do a working holiday there. The cool thing about Australia is I could get a visa to just work there for a year,
yeah.
see the country, make some money, and then maybe keep traveling. We'll see. So that's what I did. And I worked on a strawberry farm. And on that strawberry farm, I had a lot of time to think. It was just me and the strawberries. I was a full time strawberry picker. So then you definitely have time on your hands to think about life. And I really told myself, like, now is the time to do this because you've just been traveling. Now you're broke. You work on a strawberry farm in Australia, which was a really cool experience, but I also didn't really want to do that necessarily again. It was more of like a one time thing where that was fun. So I kind of had to push myself a little bit and say, okay, like, what are you waiting for? If you want to do this digital nomad thing, now is the time. And I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to find a job in an office in the Netherlands and just, go to work every day. So I was like, this is it. It needs to happen now,
Mm.
finally, after like a year and a half of traveling. So I found an online course. I heard about virtual assisting. So I found
Mhm.
a course to become a virtual assistant. And that's kind of where it started, where I got some skills that I could use online and started looking for clients, offering some services online as a freelancer. And that's what now kind of turned into life right now, the podcast Babes and everything I work on now while traveling.
I guess the the most important element here when it comes to digital nomad is that you work, right, while you travel the world. Because, like you said, you have a laptop with you, and you have to carry it, and you not only you have to carry it, but you have to use it, so you can
That's
make
the thing.
money. That's the thing. What would be your advice for potential digital nomads, or even current digital nomads, and looking maybe for a different job? Where to start? How can you come up with your job, or how can you create a job for yourself? Because I guess most of digital nomads, this is what they do. They create a job for themselves.
Yeah, I really had to figure this out. And I've thought about this a lot over the past years because, to be honest, for me, it really evolved over the years. So when I
Mm,
started, I thought, okay, I'll just become a virtual assistant because I can do a bunch of different tasks. There's probably something I kind of enjoy. And my priority was just to make enough money to keep traveling. So for me, I definitely did not see this as a career per se, but really as a way to make money. Um, During that course, I found out that there is a thing, podcast management, and I thought, wow, this is awesome. Like all these podcasts I listen to, there's this whole industry behind it, and I can actually work on podcasts.
mm,
So that was the first thing that really piqued my interest. And then I started learning everything there was, got my first client, got my second client, and just worked with them for a while and found out, okay, this is what I enjoy doing. This is what I'm good at. And there were also tasks that I just did not want to do. I just procrastinated until the very last second of my deadline before doing those tasks. So that was another sign for me. Okay, these tasks, I probably should outsource them or like not take them on anymore, or, like that's just not for me. And going through that process basically continuously, like now I'm still doing this where I look at what I do in my day and then I see, okay, this task I really enjoy. This task I don't enjoy at all. Okay, how can we lean into what works, lean into what I enjoy and what is easy for me, because the tasks that are easy for me are not easy for other people's. So that's probably where I'm naturally good at, and lean into what's easy. So that's what I've been doing the entire time working online. And that also means like what I started doing back then versus what I do now is honestly completely different. My tasks, my days, it all looks completely different because it has evolved. And I also
mm,
think that I evolved. My mindset around working online evolved a lot. Like I said before when I started this online career and online business, it was just like I just want to make enough money to travel and that's it. Now I really do see this as a career, and I also treat it as a career. So I make sure that I'm always learning new things, networking with interesting people, and I take it very, very seriously. So that is something that I had to learn and a mindset shift that I had to make because I just didn't really know that it was possible. I
mm.
thought it's either travel or a career, but turns out you can actually do both at the same time, which can be challenging, but it is possible. So, yeah, to answer your question, I created a job for myself by trying out a bunch of different things and leaning into what works and what comes natural to me.
It's interesting what you're saying about having a career and being a nomad at the same time. How do you do that? How do you split your time between work and travel?
So I've been going back and forth between this. Working basically the like quote unquote normal 9 to 5 hours versus working when I feel like working a lot, not working a lot, like working the absolute minimum. Um, what I found now, what I'm trying out now to find a good balance is to work when I have the energy. So some weeks I am fired up and I love my work that I do and I just can keep going. So I try to just go with the flow then, because next week I might not have energy or I just don't feel like work at all. And that's also fine. Like this week, it's not a particular productive week for me. I just, do my calls, do what I have to do, but I'm not starting new projects this week. I just don't feel like it. But that's totally fine because last week was so productive. So that's my strategy now. What I'm just trying to do is go with the flow. And I do have phases where I just focus a little bit more on work versus phases that I focus more on travel.
Mm,
So now, like you said, I'm in Germany. I have an apartment here with my boyfriend. So this is my home base, if you will. So during summer, we try to spend time in Germany, close to our families, and also just for work. I can take on new projects. I can do new things, take courses, learn new things, just develop skills. And when I take off again, when I start traveling again, like for example, early 2024, we have a trip planned to South Africa, and I will not be working for 3 weeks. And
right.
then after that, I can imagine that we'll probably travel more to escape winter, like you said in your intro. That's what we like to do. So that's not going to be a really like work phase for me. So I'm just going to do what I have to do, of course. I still have to show up for my own business and for other projects that I work on, but I'm not gonna do anything extra. So, to give a better example, probably right now, I'm working on a new website for the podcast babes. I'm doing that
Mm,
now in my work phase. End of the year, early next year, in winter, I'm not gonna take on projects like that. It's not urgent. It's not a priority at that time because I'm traveling.
right. So I understand what you're saying. This is smart, but I guess it requires also a lot of organization on your part, and be, I guess, also very aware of your budget, because when you're not working, you're not making money, are you?
So for me, that's not really the case because the Podcast Babes is an agency. So that
Right.
means also just the way we structure the business. Our clients we have ours on a retainer. So every time we get paid the same, and my team handles most of the day to day of the business. So I come in and I do all the, you know, visionary stuff, coming up with new ideas, creating new marketing strategies, growing the business, creating a new website for the business. Um, but and I do need to check in. We have a call every week so that I also know what's going on and what we're working on for clients and things like that. But I don't really have to be involved in the business every single day for 8
Hmm.
hours per day. So if I work less, I get paid the same than if I work more. It's more about growing the business, so it's more about earning more in the long term. But right now, like today, if I work or if I don't work, it doesn't really matter for my income right now.
Yeah, because you've been able to build a team below you that can handle the
Exactly.
day-to-day operations, and you have like uh, get yourself out of it as much as you can. That is
Exactly.
smart. Yeah, that is a smart way. So put yourself into a position where you can have that flexibility of working hard when it's time to work hard, and then pause the work and do more traveling when it's time to do that.
Yeah, but I also think if you're a freelancer and you have to put in the hours to get paid, I also think that there is a way to do that by
Mm,
actually really early on in my first months as a digital nomad, I met someone with amazing advice. She was a lot into personal finance, and she told me when you budget as a digital nomad, it does not make sense to look at it month to month. You have to look at
mm,
the entire year. So look at what income you need for the entire year and then also where you're going to spend it. Like maybe you live a few months in Vietnam and then a few months in Germany. Well, Germany is a lot more expensive than Vietnam. So naturally, you will need a bigger budget for Germany, or you can live the luxury life in Vietnam. But it makes sense to then spend less money in Vietnam and more money in Germany. And you can do that by planning ahead a little bit and just being very clear on your yearly budget compared to your monthly budget, which is how most people with a traditional lifestyle look at their finances. So I think if you're a freelancer and you also want time off or work less during a certain time, I think you can just plan for it, right?
That was a great advice. Good.
Yeah.
So basically
Not
treat
mine.
your, yeah, no, but it's interesting because it ties into uh, the lifestyle and the work together as in a company, as even as a solopreneur. You have to do, like, it is highly recommended to do a 1 year budget. And I know many entrepreneurs and solopreneurs don't do it, but that's what exactly the same as a nomad. What you're saying is that do your 1 year budget also, and maybe look at also your source of revenue together. Look at the expenses versus the revenue and see what you can do, and maybe you will realize that you need to work more to be able to afford the life
Or
you want.
yeah, or that you have to spend time in different countries. I think we
Yeah.
have this awesome opportunity as digital nomads to leverage geo arbitrage, which basically just means like go to the countries where your money goes a long way. So if your
Mm.
budget is a little bit smaller this year, maybe you want to spend time in Southeast Asia versus Europe. If your budget is a little bit bigger next year, then maybe next year you want to go to some more expensive countries like Finland, for example.
Yeah, it's not cheap
Exactly.
where I live. Um, all right, so this is very practical. I like it. So have a 1 year budget. Do you have any other practical recommendations for digital nomads out there?
I think the most important thing that I've learned is to keep my eyes and ears open to get tips and tricks from other nomads. Like I
Mm.
said, that awesome advice that I got from someone else, but also just seeing what works for me. I just trying things out. What I did in business and in my career, I think that also works really well for the digital nomad lifestyle. There are so many different ways to live this lifestyle and be a digital nomad. And at the moment, I have a home base here in Germany and I travel from here, and we generally spend about like half the year in Germany, half the year somewhere else. And that's something that I also had to kind of find out. So not just my career, I had to find out what I like and what works for me, but also for the kind of lifestyle aspect of it and travel. Um, so yeah, I had to find it out by just doing the thing and traveling really fast and then traveling really slow, Airbnb hopping, uh, living in different parts of the world. And then eventually this is what we ended up now, at least. And I think it
Mm.
will change again, which is totally fine because I have my eyes and ears open. And, when there's another cool tip or something new in the industry, like for example, in 2 weeks, I'm going to Spain, like you said, and I'm going to go live in a co living space for the very first time. I'm super excited to try this out. And there are more and more co living spaces around the world. So I'm really curious to see if I enjoy living in a co-living space for a month, and then maybe I wanna do more of that, or if I hate it, then I'll probably never do it again, of course, and just go to an Airbnb next time. So yeah, just like trying new things and keeping an eye out for what's new and what other people recommend. I also heard so many good things about Valencia, where I'm going, and about
Mhm.
co-living spaces in general that I was like, I'm in. I just wanna try this out now.
In in the introduction, I mentioned that one of your recommendations is not to get caught on how other people lives their own digital nomad life. Where does this come from?
I think it's very easy to open Instagram and see all the perfect Bali lifestyles, like everyone working with the laptop by the pool. And that's one way to do it, you could do that. But
For 30
if
minutes?
you think, yeah, for 30 minutes and then you're overheated, your laptop is overheated, you cannot see
Yeah,
anything on that screen. I tried.
there you go.
Yeah, no. So I think it's really good to know that there are many, many options. Like you can really make this lifestyle your own and you can make your online career your own. And that's can be scary because there's a lot of decisions to make. But I think it's really good to just start and see what works and just go from there. And knowing that there's always a way to change things. So if you would decide, you know what, I'm gonna sell my stuff, I'm gonna move to Bali, great. Maybe after a few months, you're like, it's not exactly it. So then you could move back home, but there are a million other options. You know, you can go to a different country, different continent, different town on Bali, try a different career, live in a different Airbnb or a different accommodation. There are so many things that you can change to see what you like and how you like to live this lifestyle. You also don't have to be a full-time digital nomad and travel around all the time if that is exhausting to you. To me, it is. I
Mm.
really enjoy travel until I don't, and I just need to sit down and, have a kind of a normal life and just have my little office here and read a book and not see new things for a while. And then I get decided and I get excited and I get itchy feet again. And then it's time to book my next flight and go traveling again. So you don't have to choose. I think you can actually have it all.
I've heard other digital nomads recommending to start by traveling in your own country, because you can be a digital nomad in your own country. It is safer. This is a place you know. There is less paperwork involved,
Yep.
and it's a good way to find out if you would like that life too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for some people that's a great option to kind of like ease into it. Um, I think it's not for me. Like I get very excited about something and then I take drastic action,
Mm,
which can be stressful. But it also kind of worked because I really pushed myself and moved to basically the other side of the world to a different continent. But yes, if you just want to try it out, maybe even for a few weeks, right? You don't have to sell everything and go all in. But I think it's actually a great option to just maybe you want to go for 1 or 2 weeks in your own country, different city, see how it goes, and then take the next step from there. Yeah, it's a great option, I think.
mm. All right. So to summarize, if you want to try it out, better to listen to yourself than watching what's on Instagram, because the reality can be very deceiving.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And
And we're all different, right? Like
yeah,
maybe some people really enjoy living in a certain location and they are living their best life there. And maybe when you arrive there, you just don't feel at home there. And I think sometimes it's also not rational. I have arrived in destinations where I've never been before and just instantly felt at home. And then other
mm,
destinations where I was so excited about, it just didn't really feel good. And there's not necessarily a reason, but I think we're all different and you just have to see what works for you and not what works for
mm,
everyone else.
exactly. It's your lifestyle, not others.
Yeah.
Great, like it. Now here are two questions that I love asking my guests, because I always discovered like some crazy things. What is the worst experience you've had in 5 years?
Um Worst experience. I've had some challenging times, I'm not gonna lie. Um I think the worst was literally 2 weeks after leaving, I got very, very sick. I got
Right.
dengue in Indonesia, and
Mm-hmm.
I was completely alone in the middle of nowhere on Java, and, luckily, honestly, I was too sick to kind of realize what was going on. My parents were so worried.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was, not great. I was mostly just annoyed that I couldn't travel more and a little bit afraid that I had to go home, because it was
Mm,
only two weeks into my 1 year or longer trip. So yeah, that was really not great. I think in general, just health challenges were the worst experiences.
It's a great opportunity for me to promote medical for nomads. Did you have
Yes,
did you have a
exactly.
medical insurance at that time?
This was not scripted.
No, it wasn't. But did you have a medical insurance at that time when you had the dengue
I
fever?
did, yes. Yeah. And
Good.
that was definitely good. I mean, I didn't go to the hospital, which was honestly a mistake, like thinking back now, but I was literally too sick to go to a hospital and there was no one to help me. So I just, I was in a hostel and I just had to ride it out there. Um, but yeah, I always travel with medical insurance, 100%.
Good. And so, people, if you have dengue fever, you need to go to the hospital because you need to check your white blood cells. And if they drop down, you need to check them out. And if they drop down very fast, you have to be evacuated, depending on where you are, to an hospital. So very,
Yep.
very important to go to the hospital. I had dengue fever, but it only lasted for three days. But my partner at the time had to be evacuated to Bangkok on a plane. So
Mm.
we were living in Cambodia. They brought a plane just for her, like a
Wow.
like a like
Okay.
big plane. So talking about carbon emissions, but that was years back. But everything was covered. Everything was covered by the insurance.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What
So
an
yeah,
experience.
that's important. Yes, that's important. So we talk about the worst thing that happened to you. What was the best thing that happened to you? At least pick one.
I think the best thing has been the people that I met.
Mm,
Just meeting people with similar values, similar lifestyles, people who understand because as a digital nomad, many people who I know from back home, many people try to understand, but they don't really know what it's like. Um, and also some people they don't want to understand. I've also lost friends because we're just not on the same page anymore about life. Like, they don't understand me, I don't understand them, and we grew apart. So I think having a community and meeting people who are doing the same thing as you and also just trying to make it work and putting all this energy into finding a lifestyle that works for them and not looking at everyone else and just taking that leap, which is scary. It's not I have never met a digital nomad who was like, "Oh yeah, it was so easy. Like I don't know, just ended up here accidentally." No, like everyone puts in the work. Like mindset work, finding a remote job or starting your own business, then also finding out where to travel, just travel logistics also takes time and
mm.
energy. So it's not easy, but people who are choosing to do that, yeah, it's really awesome to meet those people.
Yes, friends for life, I think.
Yeah.
Um, Before we wrap up, is there anything that we forgot to talk about and you would like to add?
Well, maybe I should actually talk about my podcast now, if that's
There
okay.
you go.
Yeah.
Shoot.
Yeah, so like I said, I mean, I love meeting other nomads and hearing their stories and learning from them and having that sense of community. And during COVID, we obviously didn't really have that. I didn't really meet that many new nomads because I just stayed in one place. So I decided to start a podcast, Digital Nomad Stories, where we share, you can guess, stories from digital nomads.
Yeah,
And so, yeah, if you want to check that out, you can go to digitalnomadstories.co and you can find, I think we're at 170 episodes now. So, yeah, there's a bunch of interviews with different nomads, different lifestyles, different remote jobs or businesses, and they share all their secrets with us.
amazing. I
Maybe
was
not
about
all.
my last.
I said maybe not all secrets, but many.
But I was about to ask you how can people contact you, but you just did it. So thank you.
Yeah, making your life
Thank you
easy,
very,
Laura.
yes, thank you very much, Anne, for your time today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
And that's the wrap for today's episode. If you enjoyed Anne's insights and tips, well, then subscribe to to the podcast so you don't miss any episode in the future, no matter where you are. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.